Hello guys and welcome back to another video on my channel. As always, I started my work on the kit by washing the parts in lukewarm soapy water. Today, I'll be working on Revell's, or I better say Matchbox's, Jagpanzer IV in 1/76 scale. Without any further ado, let's start. After having washed the parts of the kit, I started work on the assembly. First, I cut off the sprue the sides of the lower hole, and I glued them to the bottom of it. They're a bit fiddly, but after a tiny bit of messing around, they set in their place. They don't have any flash or anything like that, so no extra work was required. After that, I cut off the backplate of the sprue, cleaned the spots that were connected with the sprue and glued it to the rest of the hole. Pay attention to align the backplate properly so you don't have any issues later on. Then, after that, it was time for me to sort out the sprockets. Little did I know that this was just a warm-up compared to how many more wheels I'd have to sort out and glue. Stick around, see what I did there, and see for yourself. After I sorted out the sprockets, next up were the idlers, and god, did it take a while. Honestly, the most annoying thing about this whole process was trying to sort out the area that was once connected with the sprue, because as I wanted to sand it down, the idlers kept on trying to escape from my fingers because I couldn't hold them properly because they are so tiny. And then it was time for me to start sorting out the road wheels. And god, did it take even longer. The idlers and the sprockets were nothing compared to them. I mean, quality-wise, there is nothing wrong with them. They're just so tiny that they kept on falling out of my fingers as I was sanding them down. The other annoying part was how repetitive it felt, but I guess it was all a small price to pay for salvation, or I better say, for a finished kit. Then, after I sorted out the road wheels, it was time for me to sort out the return rollers, so I'd finally be done with all the wheels. Naturally, after this, the build went much quicker. Next up were these some sort of mudguards. While gluing them, you shouldn't have any bigger issues. Just make sure you align them properly with the backplate so the superstructure can sit properly later on. After I glued the mudguards, next up to glue onto the tank destroyer were the hatches. I glued them closed because there aren't any crew figures, but you could technically glue them in an open position if you get yourself some aftermarket crew figures. Next up, I cut these some sort of triangle panels of the spruce and glued them onto the back of the tank destroyer. I guess they are some sort of extra armor plates. Then, it was time for me to glue the side skirts, giving the Jagpanzer its iconic look. And after that, I glued the mantlet into its place. And perfect. First try, huh? I'll never be done with sorting out and gluing the wheels, will I? Well, luckily it seems I am actually. These spare wheels that are supposed to be glued onto the top back of the tank destroyer. Since I was gluing all the tiny details, next up were the exhausts. They are a bit fiddly to get into their place, but it was nothing too difficult. And with that, the assembly of the tank destroyer is complete. Now, let's paint the soldier first and then the tank destroyer. These are the paints I'll be using to paint the soldier, but honestly, you could make it work with just some Panzer Grey, rubber back and skin color, without needing others for extra shading since the scale is so tiny. First, I'll use the black primer and after it, the grey one. You may ask me why I use those primers, and, well, I use them to simulate shading and give a bit of visual interest to the figure. After that, I painted the figure in thin coats of paint, so the shading would be kinda visible even when the figure had been fully painted. Enjoy these close-ups as I paint the figure. And here's the figure, fully painted. I don't think I did a bad job considering figures in this scale are like 3 centimeters tall. Now, it is time for me to focus my attention to the main part of the kit, to the tank destroyer and this beautiful little diorama. These are all the paints I intended to use to paint the tank destroyer, but in the end I only opted for a unicolor camo because I didn't like how my tricolor camo ended up looking. Here's the thinner I used. First, I started by airbrushing the extra tracks. Then, I continued by airbrushing the tank destroyer itself. While I waited for the Jagpanzer IV to dry, I turned my attention to the diorama. First, I airbrushed some main colors onto it and then I pick up the rest of the details with brushes. As you can see, the camera doesn't do justice to these colors. In real life, they pop out a little more after they've dried. They aren't barely visible as in the video. Now, after I've sorted out the diorama, I just have to touch up the tracks with some gunmetal grey, because they got covered in German yellow while I was airbrushing the whole model before. And with that, the kit has finally been fully painted. I'm pretty satisfied with how it turned out, though see for yourselves. And now I'll go apply a coat of satin varnish so the model will be ready for the decals, and a clear coat onto the diorama so its paint job is protected. I used a can of this. Now let's start by placing the decals. I started by applying these numbered decals. They aren't bad at all, though I wish they were maybe a tiny bit less fragile, though luckily they didn't break on me this time, like some Revell's decals that did in the past. And after that, I lowered the markings decals into the water and started applying them. After the decals had dried, I proceeded by weathering the model. First, I put some enamel thinner onto the whole model so the wash I used gets a bit diluted and doesn't darken the paint too much. I applied it randomly over the areas I thought would need some more visual interest. After the wash had somewhat dried, I applied the pastel colors onto the model and onto the diorama, some black pastel onto the gun and the exhausts, and I used some dark brown with a hint of orange that I put onto the road wheels and onto the diorama. And here's the kit, finally fully complete. After working on the kit for around like 5 to 6 hours, it is complete. Honestly, there aren't any issues with the kit. The build is straightforward and fast. The only annoying part of it is sorting out the road wheels, idlers, return rollers and sprockets, because it feels so repetitive, but other than that, the build went with no issues, as I've said before. I'm pretty happy with how the tank destroyer turned out, as well as the figure and the diorama. All in all, it's a nice little kit, even though it is quite old. Its tooling dates to 1970s. So what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. Now, I'll leave you with some 360-degree footage of the kit. See you in the next video and stay safe. Bye!